Episode 6, Cyrus the King of Kings, Law, Power, and the Structure of Empire. Part 1, Beyond Conquest. By this point in the story, Cyrus had become more than a victorious king. He had risen from the Persian world, transformed the balance of power in Iran, defeated Lydia, expanded toward the east, entered Babylon, and became a ruler whose image could be understood through different sacred languages. But conquest and legitimacy were not enough. An empire could not survive only because a king had won battles. It could not remain stable only because people saw his rule as meaningful. Victory could open the door to power, but it could not hold a world together by itself. The deeper question was practical. How could such a vast world be governed? How could different peoples, cities, traditions, languages, temples, local powers, and older political structures exist inside one imperial system? This is where Cyrus becomes most important, not simply as a conqueror, but as a builder of order. The empire he created was not a single city ruling over ruins. It was not a simple expansion of one people over all others. It was something more complex. Cyrus had to create a structure capable of holding difference. He had to rule lands that had not shared one history. He had to govern peoples who remembered different kings, worshipped different gods, spoke different languages, and lived under different local customs. If he tried to erase all of that, the empire would become fragile. If he allowed every region to remain completely separate, the empire would have no unity. So the achievement of Cyrus was to find another path, a wider political order, strong enough to hold together, but flexible enough to include older worlds inside itself. This was the foundation of imperial rule, and it explains why Cyrus cannot be understood only through the language of conquest. He was not only taking cities, he was learning how to keep them. Part 2, The Politics of Continuity. One of the most important features of Cyrus's rule was continuity. He did not build power only by destroying what came before. Again and again, his method seems to have been based on absorbing, redirecting, and reorganizing older structures. This was visible in media. The Median world was not simply erased. Its scale, geography, and political experience became part of the new Persian order. It was visible in Lydia. A wealthy and strategic Western kingdom did not simply disappear into silence. It became part of a broader imperial field. It was visible most clearly in Babylon. The city remained important. Its religious and political traditions were not treated only as obstacles. They were transformed into sources of legitimacy. This reveals something essential about Cyrus's politics. He understood that old centers of power had value. A city, a temple, a royal tradition, a local elite, a road system, a scribal culture. All of these could become instruments of imperial order. Instead of destroying every older institution, Cyrus could use them. This did not mean that the empire was weak. It meant that it was intelligent. A ruler who destroys everything must rebuild everything from nothing, but a ruler who understands continuity can transform an old world into part of a new one. This was one of the great strengths of Persian imperial power. It could present itself not only as domination, but as restoration. Not only as replacement, but as organization. The empire became a structure in which many local realities could continue, while also being connected to a larger center. This was not modern equality. It was not democracy. It was imperial rule. But within the world of ancient power, it was a different and highly effective political logic. Cyrus's empire did not survive by making every place identical. It survived by creating a framework in which difference could be governed. Part 3. Law, Order, and the King. For Cyrus, law was not only a written command, it was part of order. In the ancient world, law, kingship, religion, custom, and political authority were deeply connected. A king was expected not only to command, but to maintain balance. He had to protect the structure of life, preserve order, and make his rule appear just. This is why the idea of law in the world of Cyrus must be understood broadly. It was not only about rules written on tablets, it was about the organization of power itself. Who could govern a city? How were conquered lands treated? How could local customs continue? How could temples, elites, and communities be placed inside a larger imperial system? These were not small questions. They were the questions that determined whether conquest would become empire or collapse. Cyrus's political intelligence was that he connected power with order. He did not present kingship only as force. He presented it as the ability to create stability after disruption. This was especially important in a world where cities and kingdoms had often been destroyed, rebelled, conquered, and reconquered. Cyrus offered a different model. The king could be the source of organization. The empire could be the frame that allowed many older worlds to continue. Authority could be centralized, while local life did not need to be completely erased. This was the balance. A strong center, but not total destruction of the periphery. A universal empire, but not a single uniform culture. A king above many peoples, but a system that allowed those peoples to remain recognizable inside the empire. This is why the title King of Kings matters. It does not only express greatness, it expresses structure. One king stood above other powers, but those other powers still existed in some form. Local authorities, traditions, and institutions could remain while being placed under the wider authority of the imperial center. This was not just a title, it was a political idea. Part 4. The Structure of Empire. The empire of Cyrus was held together by more than military strength. Armies mattered, of course. Without force, no ancient empire could survive, but force alone was never enough. The empire needed roads, communication, local administration, loyal elites, symbolic legitimacy, and a political language that different regions could understand. It needed to connect distance. It needed to turn conquest into government. The genius of Cyrus was that he did not treat empire as endless destruction. He treated it as construction. A new imperial world had to be built across lands that were already old. This is one of the deepest meanings of his rule. Cyrus did not create order in an empty world. He created order among existing civilizations. He governed through a combination of strength and accommodation, central authority and local continuity, royal command and inherited tradition. That combination became one of the foundations of the Persian imperial model. The empire could expand because it could absorb. It could endure because it did not need to erase every difference. It could rule because it understood that power must become structure. By the end of Cyrus's life, the world had changed. The old balance of separate great kingdoms had disappeared. In its place stood a vast imperial order stretching across regions, cultures, and histories. This order did not belong only to one city. It was not Babylonian, Median, Lydian, or simply Persian in a narrow sense. It was something larger. a new political world centered on the authority of Cyrus and the structure he created. This is why his legacy cannot be reduced to conquest. Many kings conquered, fewer built systems, and very few created a political order strong enough to change the imagination of empire itself. Cyrus became remembered as a liberator, a restorer, a chosen ruler, and a just king. But behind all of these images was something practical and powerful, the ability to organize the world. And yet, every empire becomes more than its institutions. It becomes memory, it becomes myth, it becomes identity. After Cyrus, people did not only ask what he had done, they began to ask what he meant. And that is where the final episode begins.